Nadia, and thanks to the UK Friends of Standing Together for setting up this initiative and organizing this meeting tonight. Like Rula, I also was awakened in the morning of October 7th on Saturday by the sound of sirens, running to take shelter with my two small daughters, aged 7 and 9. Then the second siren came, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. And on social media, news started to trickle about what's happening in the south of Israel, where many of us have friends and relatives. Israel is a fairly small country. Almost all Israelis know directly or indirectly someone who was badly affected by the October 7th Hamas attack. And many people at that very difficult moment of realization that humanity has been breached, that innocent lives were targeted, choose to take a step back, to recede into the private sphere, to succumb to the weight of the moment. Standing together as a grassroots political movement that unites both Jewish and Palestinian citizens of Israel, that organizes and mobilizes for peace, for equality, for social justice, our response was not to recede back, but to meet this moment with organizing people in our society for a response to what's happening. From the very start, we started to form the Jewish-Arab Solidarity Guards, local groups throughout Israel that work to de-escalate violent and racist situations, especially in the so-called mixed cities, shared cities like Haifa and Lid and Jaffa, where Arab and Palestinian citizens of Israel live side by side. Work together to organize mutual aid efforts that bring together Palestinian and Israeli families. Our local group in Jerusalem was hanging out posters saying, "Only peace will bring security." Our local group in Lid was organizing Jewish and Palestinian volunteers to organize food drive to get assistance to families who were badly affected by the war, by both Palestinian and Jewish families. Our local group in Haifa was going about the city erasing racist graffiti, changing a graffiti that read "Death to Arabs" to a graffiti in Hebrew and Arabic that said "Equality and Security for All." This Jewish-Arab Solidarity Guard, with dozens of groups throughout the country, is our way to promote a politic of hope in a time when government officials and the people in power want a feeling of despair to rule over society. We have politicians in power in Israel that promote racist policies, and our response to that is to promote equality from the ground, to show people, not in words, but in deeds, that different reality can be materialized if we organize around it. We started early November to do mass Jewish-Arab solidarity rallies to bring together hundreds of people in various cities throughout Israel. On average, every 3 days, we had a Jewish-Arab solidarity rally, either in an Arab city, or a Jewish city, or a shared city. With hundreds attending in Tel Aviv, hundreds attending in Tira, in Baka el-Gharbia, in Tamra, in Nachaf, in Jerusalem. Some of these events suffered repression. The event in Jerusalem, for example, was supposed to take place in a progressive synagogue. Extreme right-wing activists pressured the Jerusalem municipality, who in turn pressured the synagogue, who in turn, a day before the event, announced that we will not have the venue for the event. We found a different venue at the very last moment, and 400 people attended in Jerusalem for a solid message of support for Israeli-Palestinian peace, for ending the occupation, for full equality to everyone who lives in Israel, both Palestinian citizens as well as Jewish citizens. Our response to repression is to double back, to organize more, to have our message put across. In Haifa, we were supposed to have an event in a community center, also owned by the municipality. Again, right-wing activists threatened the municipality. Again, it was cancelled in the very last minute. A day before the event, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the Kababir neighborhood in Haifa, which we're very honored to have representative here of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the United Kingdom, opened the doors of their mosque for us as an alternative venue, and 700 Jews and Arabs packed the hall to its full capacity. Never before have I seen so many people in Israel, most of them Jewish people, pack a mosque at a time when the Israeli government is bombing the Gaza Strip. We show by example that different politics is possible. We show by example that different reality is possible, and a different reality is something that our country badly needs. Our grief for the terrible loss inflicted on Israeli society on October 7th is further compounded when we see what our own government is doing to the Palestinian civil population in the Gaza Strip. The indiscriminate bombing that have already killed, according to Palestinian and international reports, thousands of Palestinian children. the tightening of the siege with cutting of electricity and water, which is a collective punishment, goes against international humanitarian law, ordering more than 1 million Palestinians to evacuate from the northern part of the Gaza Strip to the south, then bombing those very same places in the south where they were ordered to evacuate to. We are living through a humanitarian and a political catastrophe, and Israel is led by politicians that are pushing us in that direction. We have the Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, who, when justifying the tightening of the siege on Gaza, said, "We are dealing with human animals and we shall treat them as such." We have the former Minister of Public Information, Galit Distel, that said we need to erase Gaza off the map. We have a former head of the Shabak, the Israeli Security Service, who is now minister from the Likud in the Israeli cabinet, saying Gaza should have a second Nakba, a second catastrophe. We have the Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, also from the ruling Likud party, that said we are too humane, Gaza should burn. This is dehumanization of an entire people. This is genocidal rhetoric. This is a very dangerous development that needs to be rejected from progressive voices inside Israeli society, rejected from progressive voices in the international community, rejected also from progressive voices in the United Kingdom, as ought such pronunciation be treated with. When we approach people from abroad, and we do this not often, our work as Standing Together is to organize within our own society to bring about progressive social and political transformation of our own society. We engage with dialogue, with partners, with similar-minded organizations and individuals abroad, such as yourself, who share our values. Our message is very simple. The public conversation abroad about what's happening in Israel and Palestine is lacking, is missing. It is missing out on a very simple message that we are trying to push forward. Millions of Jewish Israelis live in this country. Millions of Arab Palestinians are living in this country. None of them is going anywhere. Any discussion about Israel and Palestine should have this as its starting point. Not theory, not rhetoric, not words, not history, but the lived reality of millions of people in this country who aspire for safety, who aspire for security, who deserve dignity and independence and justice. And this is the very same thing that our own government is bent on preventing. What we in Standing Together are trying to do is to bring Jews and Palestinians together around shared mutual interests across communities in our country. What we are trying to do is to promote a vision of justice, an all-encompassing vision of justice for our country and for the people who live in it, whom we love deeply. And what we want to do is to raise the banner of Israeli-Palestinian peace, especially at the time of war, especially at a time when the people in power promise us nothing but a continuation of the status quo and worsening of the status quo. The current Israeli government doesn't promise the people who live in Israel anything but an internal war, but a military occupation of Gaza, but having Israeli soldiers die there every week as they maintain a military control of an occupied people. And what they are promising Israeli society, Israeli citizens, Jews and Palestinians, is a dire future. We need to present an alternative. We need to do it from within our own society, speaking with our society, convincing and building a new majority in our society around these ideas. This is what Standing Together is trying to do, to build a new majority in our society that would allow us to advance towards this direction. The support and the solidarity of people such as yourself and people such as the communities that you represent helps us greatly in this effort. It shows people in our society that there are many people throughout the world who share our values and our vision. They show people that not everybody is willing to shake the hands of Netanyahu, but rather there are people who are willing to shake the hands of people inside Israel, Jews and Palestinians who aspire for a better future. We saw your Prime Minister, perhaps he's here in the building somewhere. We saw your Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, visit Israel. He said he wants to stand with Israel. Many people abroad want to support the right of Jewish Israelis to live in safety and security, and that's perfectly understandable, and that's the right thing to do. But standing with Israel and standing with Israelis is not one and the same thing. If you really want to stand with the people who live in Israel, with Rula, with myself, with our friends, with our families, then we must be harshly critical of the policies of the existing Israeli government that's actually undermining the safety and the security of the vast majority in Israel. This is what it means to be a friend of the people who live in Israel, to be harshly critical of Netanyahu government and his policies. We expect people to do this. We are engaged in doing this inside Israel, and we carved out the space inside Israel to do this. Jews and Palestinians together, to be critical of our government and its policies. Surely people here in the UK can carve up this space to do this. Across communities, across religion, across backgrounds, around the shared vision of peace in the Middle East. Thank you for your time.